but he's a dominant on-the-puck guy who can create scoring opportunities for other people.
You don't have to worry about the character of this kid because everybody knows, sort of who he is. What makes Steve Yzerman so great is not only because he can see talent, but he knows how to develop talent. He wants guys to come and step up.
Red Wings deep dive. Let's do it. I see here on the prep, can Kasper make the team? And I know you just started talking about, listen, don't focus on this year's draft. Talk about last year's draft that's coming into this year. But when Stevie Y was talking about Kasper, they were talking about how he's a very efficient player, not a dominant scorer that you were really kind of hoping that they would get, but he's a dominant on-the-puck guy who can create scoring opportunities for other people. Obviously, out of Sweden, that Swedish plan is coming through for the Red Wings. They are going hard at everything out of Sweden. But how'd you feel when we got that guy?
Well, I know that he was on the short list, obviously, for Steve Yzerman and stuff like that. And you look at pedigree of where he comes from. And the first thing you look at is he played in rural with Mo Seider, a few years ago. So there's some pedigree in the coaching and whatever's going on over there, and what system that these guys come out. But that Swedish Hockey League is the next league. Do I expect, could he make the team? Absolutely. Anybody can make the team. When you're the Detroit Red Wings right now, anybody can come in and step in. Do I expect him to? No, I expect him probably maybe to go back to Sweden and play one more year. And because you look at what it's done for guys like Joe Veleno, for guys like Lucas Raymond, for guys like Mo Seider in their development, and they only need 1 year there, right? You look at different guys, and this is where Steve Yzerman and his coaches and scouts and everybody get these players. It's about putting them in the right position if their next position isn't with the big club for progress, right? So you look at Jonathan Berggren last year that they decided to put in Grand Rapids because he needed to develop into more of the North American game or whatever it was. That's the guy you look, is he ready to make that next step? I look at the guys now, and this is where the systems come back, where it's not like baseball or not like it used to be with the Wings in the past, where a guy would get drafted and he go in the minors for a couple of years, and then he'd have to wait his turn, and then suddenly 4 years down the line you see him.
Right.
This is like, you're gonna get drafted. If you're ready to play and they are ready for you, and they have it's not gonna be a detriment to you developing, then you'll get every opportunity to play here. That's why I look at last year's draft of the guys that developed, because there's a whole bunch coming up, right?
Yeah.
But there are seats at the table. But what you look forward to is where are they going to go and develop?
Well, and that's the thing. You want them to develop. You want like the Mo Seider. That's almost the perfect scenario,
but you look
right?
at the perfect storm for Mo Seider. Backtrack it. Do you remember he played Grand Rapids? Then he went the next year after the COVID back to the Swedish Elite League. It's just because of the youth of these guys too. So what I'm saying is that Swedish Elite League's really proving to develop players for the NHL as much as the AHL or anything else is. So it's so important in your system is where you go to develop these guys, because understand it this way, right? What makes Steve Yzerman so great is not only because he can see talent, but he knows how to develop talent.
Right.
Where I'm going to put you in Grand Rapids. No, you need to go back to no, you need to go back to junior. No, you need to develop in college a little bit more. Right? This roster, he wants guys to come and step up and guys to prove him and do. Now, do you expect you're going to get a Mo Seider every year? No.
You hope.
You
you
hope,
right.
But the pedigree is to development.
Right.
The other thing I look at, obviously, too, and this is to how Derek Lalonde wants to build his team. Now, he's told us through interviews he wants to build it from the goaltending out, like much as what Tampa did. So you look at the Vasilevsky, the Hedman, the Sergachev, and the Chernak, which is their main four, is who are those guys going to be here for you? Well, your Hedman is your Mo Seider, right? Now, is this Edvinsson going to step up? Is this, your Chernak could be your Lindholm.
Okay.
Or your Lindstrom, Gustav Lindstrom, that you already have, the stay-at-home sort of type big guy. but you don't know. But what I'm saying, there's competition here.
A Show Ryu King from the chat is saying we're all witnessing the construction of a cup caliber team. The real, he said the real one is now, but I'm thinking he says the real one's no. And do you feel that way? Are you feeling that momentum? And I know, like with Dan Campbell, you got the Dan Campbell clock. And when they talked to Steve Yzerman after the draft, they asked, "Hey, okay, so where are we at in your rebuild?" He's like, "Well, I'm year 3.
I've been here for 3 years."
That was one of my favorite answers I've ever heard anybody say. Like, I've been here 3 years, so we're in year 3. Like, I thought that was an awesome kind of like snarky answer. Like, get off my back, let me do this.
Here's the thing: he lets you know after he's done it, or he does not dictated by. Obviously, coming up here on the 13th, which is Wednesday's free agency, right? So everybody's saying he's got to make a big splash, got to make a splash. What if the guy he wants isn't there?
Right.
He ain't gonna do anything. So the fact that he sits on his wall and doesn't go get that high-profile guy right now means that the high-profile guy in the Johnny Gaudreau or whoever else you think that it has to be because there's a guy out there isn't what he believes. There's always, and then there's always everybody always looks for what you don't have and what you're going to get. But with a new coach and different things like that, I also look at what you have and what made it into, right? You know, and when Neil comes back, we'll mention about his guy Zadina.
Yeah.
Because I think this could be, you're going to find out. It's obviously, if last year was make or break, this is even more. But here's the thing. He's still around. So Stevie likes something. Stevie sees something that we do, and maybe it takes the coach to put him in the position or the belief in him that we'll see. So there's tons of questions, but it's all positive. They got 5 centermans in the draft, right? They went out and got it. I haven't talked to Drape, so I don't know. But just from listening to the text messages, I think the guys are happy, you know, with what they got. They got good players, and now they're up in Traverse City that doesn't waste no time, and they're hammering it out.
From a player's perspective, when the draft happens and you're a veteran on the team and they select a guy, are you thinking, all right, it's just business as usual? Do you have any investment on who they're drafting? Does it really affect you on your day-to-day? Or are you
as
like
a player?
Yeah, as a player.
You have no effect on who you draft or whatever, but I think as you're younger, you look and say, that guy's not taking my job. Or if they draft a guy like you, you look at it as a competition. But that's the whole thing, is it was like, for me personally, I knew that it was my job as long as I want. And then when other priorities came about and the salary cap came in, and then they the way things worked out, couldn't afford, then it wasn't my job.
So was there ever a guy that they drafted and you were just like, oh, man, I better turn my game up just a little bit?
Well, a guy like Daryl Bootland came through the organization that was drafted, that played along the lines. Now, a lot of times, too, that's why in different organizations, sometimes when you go out and you make a trade for a guy and he works out in your organizations, well, maybe he wasn't getting the ice time because he was playing behind somebody better. So it's somebody to see the opportunity. That's the one thing that you see is I see Steve Yzerman building this team just like he captained in a lot of ways. And it's sort of like the E.F. Hutton model is that wait and when he talks, listen to what he says.
Right.
And it's all business. So he has a full grasp on how he wants to build this team. Obviously, I think that if you ask him, the second half of the season didn't go the way that he wanted, but it also let him learn what he needed to do for this draft. So the big thing is to me, isn't the guys who got drafted. It's the guys who were drafted last year in development and who's going to come up. But again, all jobs are open, just like I would say that Mo Sider and then maybe Lucas Raymond with half of it are the only really untouchables in this team.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like it's just as the teammates are sitting around, they're talking like obviously you're watching the draft. Is there like a moment where you're all texting each other like, yeah, we got that guy. That's somebody who I think could really complement our team? Or is it like, I
think as you're trying to develop and trying to build your team,
mm-hmm.
right? When you're a championship team, you already have your team
your
makeup.
Core. Yeah.
Well, no, but you've won, right? So when you're trying to win or when there's conversations out there, I think picking higher in the draft, but obviously different guy. Yeah, because I would ask some of the younger guys that just played, because these are some of their peers and some of the guys they know. So, yeah, you want your buddy or a guy that you know would work in the dressing room or in the locker room or stuff like that. So there is that sort of stuff too.
Yeah, with the Swedish influx that we have too. I know probably a bunch of the Swedes, as soon as he was drafted, I was like,
absolutely.
Let's keep adding to this.
Well, that's the whole thing, is where you know that this goes deeper to, you don't have to worry about the character of this kid, because everybody knows, sort of who he is, not here, but through the Swedish contingency, through, he was teammates with this guy, he played here, he played that. That's the big thing. And Swedes are like Canadians. There's really not a bad one.